The blood on the sand was not his own. Not yet. Kang Hoon stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard, watching the massive creature in front of him take its final breath. The beast had 6 legs and teeth like broken glass. 5 minutes ago it had been trying to eat him. Now it was dead, and Oh Yun was still standing. The crowd above him went silent. Then slowly the silence turned to confused whispers. Then to something that sounded almost like respect. Though Hyun did not care about their respect, he only cared about surviving another day. 3 weeks ago, he had been a simple cargo pilot. His ship, the Quiet Dawn, carried medicine and food supplies between colony worlds. It was boring work, but it was honest. He had a small apartment waiting for him on Earth. He had a mother who sent him messages every week. He had a life. Then the Valoran Empire found him. Their warship had appeared from nowhere, weapons already firing. The Quiet Dawn never had a chance. Dayun remembered the explosion, the fire, the cold embrace of space, before the boarding party dragged him from the wreckage. He remembered waking up in chains, surrounded by aliens who looked at him like he was an insect. Human, they had said, poking at him with metal rods. Small, weak, no natural weapons, no armor, fragile bones. They had laughed in their strange, clicking language perfect for the games. The crowd will enjoy watching it die quickly. But Dylan had not died quickly. His first match had been against a creature called a sandripper. It was fast, with claws that could cut through metal. The Valoran guards had given Do-hyun a small knife and pushed him into the arena. They expected him to last maybe 2 minutes. He lasted 20. The Sam Ripper was fast, but Do-hyun was smart. He watched how it moved. He noticed it always attacked from the left side. He used the arena's walls, its shadows, its uneven ground. When the creature finally made a mistake, Do-hyun was ready. 1 knife, 1 strike, 1 dead monster. The crowd had not known what to think. Neither had the guards now. 4 matches later, they still did not know what to think about the human who refused to die. Do-hyun wiped blood from his face and looked up at the viewing boxes that circled the arena. The rich and powerful of the Valoran Empire sat there, eating strange foods and drinking colored liquids, while they watched prisoners kill each other. To them, this was entertainment. To Dion, it was held odd. His eyes moved across the boxes until they stopped on one particular seat. She was there again, the alien princess. Do-hyun had noticed her during his second match. She sat in a special box next to the emperor himself. But she was clearly a prisoner. Her wrists wore golden chains. Guards stood behind her at all times. She was beautiful in an alien way, with silver white hair and eyes the color of deep space. But it was not her beauty that caught his attention. It was the way she watched him. The other spectators watched the games with excitement, bloodlust or bored indifference. But this princess watched Do-hyun with something different. Interest, calculation. Hope that he had learned her name from whispered conversations between guards. Princess Yuna of Irith. Her world had been conquered by the Valoran Empire. 5 years ago, her family had been killed. She alone survived, kept as a trophy, a symbol of the Emperor's complete victory over her people. She was a prisoner just like him. But unlike him, she had been a prisoner for 5 long years. Today, as Doning stood over the body of another dead beast, Princess Yuna did something unexpected. She raised her hand slightly, just a small movement that the guards behind her did not notice. Her fingers moved in a quick pattern. Do-hyun recognized it. It was old trade sign, a simple hand language used by merchants across the galaxy. His cargo pilot training had included basic lessons. In it, her fingers spelled one word: wait. Do-hyun gave no sign that he understood. He simply turned away as the guards came to drag him back to his cell. But his mind was racing. Wait for what? The cells beneath the arena were dark and cold. Dihing shared his section with fighters from a dozen different species. Most of them avoided him now. In the beginning, they'd seen him as easy prey. A small, weak human who would not survive his first match. Some had tried to kill him before the arena could. They had learned their mistake. Humans, though, Hyun had discovered were strange creatures. By galactic standards, they were not the strongest, fastest, or toughest species. But they had something else. They adapted, they learned. They refused to give up, even when giving up was the logical choice. The guards called it stupidity. Do-hyun called it being human. He sat in his cell, eating the tasteless food paste they gave prisoners, and thought about the princess and her message. Waited implied a plan. It implied that something was going to happen. It implied that she saw him as more than just entertainment. But why him? He was nobody. A cargo pilot from a small planet. He had no special skills, no powerful connections, no army to command. He was just a man who was very good at not dying. Maybe he thought that was exactly what she needed. The next day, a guard came to his cell. But instead of dragging him to the arena, the guard dropped a small piece of cloth and walked away without a word. Don't wait until he was alone. Then picked it up. Words were written on it in simple galactic script. Words that changed everything. I am Princess Yuna of Yaras. I've watched you fight. You are different from the others you think you plan. You survive. I have been planning an escape for 3 years, but I cannot do it alone. I need someone who can fight, who can think under pressure, who will not break. I believe you are that person. If you are willing to help me, signal by touching your left shoulder before your next match. If you refuse, I understand. Destroy this message. Da-hyun read the message 3 times. Then he ate the cloth dot and escape. It was insane. The Colosseum was a massive space station with thousands of guard security systems everywhere, and no ships that prisoners can access. The Emperor himself watched the games. The chances of success were almost 0. But almost 0 was not 0. And what was his alternative? Keep fighting in the arena until something finally killed him. Die as entertainment for aliens who saw humans as nothing more than amusing animals. No, Dion had not survived this long just to die in a cage. The next day, they came for him again. Another match, another creature waiting to tear him apart as the guards pushed him toward the arena entrance. Do-hyun looked up at the viewing boxes. Princess Yuna was there, watching with those deep space eyes. Do-hyun stepped into the arena. The crowd roared. The gates on the other side began to open, revealing whatever nightmare he would face today. Before the creature emerged, Do-hyun raised his hand and touched his left shoulder. High above, Princess Yuna smiled. For the first time in 5 years, the game had changed. What began as entertainment was about to become something else entirely. It was about to become survival. And if there was one thing Kang Byo-yoon understood, it was survival. He turned to face the monster. Behind him, a princess began to hope. Around them both, an empire had no idea what was coming. The human was done waiting. Now he was planning. The messages came in secret, hidden in food trays, scratched onto the walls of his cell, whispered by guards whose loyalty the princess had bought with promises of freedom over the next week. Do-hyun learned everything. The Princess Yuna had not been idle. During her 5 years of captivity, she had watched, listened, and planned. She knew the patrol schedules. She knew which guards could be bribed. She knew the location of every security system in the Colosseum. What she lacked was someone who could turn that knowledge into action. Do-hyun was not alone in the cells anymore. On the 3rd day after his signal, the guards threw a new prisoner into the section next to his. She was human, which surprised him. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Her name was Hyjin, and she was not a fighter. She was an engineer. They captured my research vessel 6 months ago. She told Do-yun through the bars of their cells. She was small with sharp eyes and quick hands. They did not kill me because I know how machines work. They used me to maintain the arena systems. The containment fields, the gates, the power grid. She smiled. But it was not a happy smile. I know every wire in this station. The princess sent you, Do-hyun said. It was not a question. She has been planning this for years. She needed a fighter, she needed an engineer. Now she has both over the following days. The three of them built their plan. The arena's containment fields were controlled from a central hub. These fields kept the monsters in their cages, the prisoners in their cells, and the whole station from falling into chaos. Hyjin could disable them, but only for a short time. 90 seconds, she said. That is how long I can give you before the backup systems come online. 90 seconds of complete chaos. 90 seconds. It was not much time, but it would have to be enough. Do-yun continued to fight in the arena. While they planned, he faced creatures made of living stone. He fought against prisoners twice his size. Each match taught him something new about the arena's layout, its weak points, its hidden corners. Each match brought him closer to death, and each survival made the guards more uneasy. Commander Tarak was the first to openly voice his suspicions. Dolphin saw him sometimes, watching from the shadows. Tarak was the Emperor's security chief, a tall alien with cold eyes and a reputation for cruelty. He did not like the human. He did not like anything he could not understand. And Do-yun was something he could not understand. No species adapts this quickly. Tarak told the Emperor one evening. Do-hyun heard about the conversation from a bribed guard. The human has survived 7 matches, 7. The record for a new species is 3. Something is wrong, the Emperor had laughed. You worry too much, Commander. It is just a human, an amusing toy. Let the crowd have their fun, but Tarak did not stop watching. And Do-hyun knew that the commander would be a problem. The plan took shape slowly. On the day of Do-hyun's next major fight, Hyjin would trigger a power surge. The containment fields would fail. Every cage in the arena would open at once, monsters. Prisoners, everyone would flood the station in complete chaos. During those 90 seconds of madness, Do-hyun would fight his way to the royal viewing area. He would reach Princess Yuna. He would get her out. There is a maintenance tunnel behind the Emperor's box. Yuna's latest message explained. It leads to a private docking bay, where the Emperor keeps his personal shuttle. The shuttle is always fueled and ready. If we can reach it, we can escape into hyperspace. Before they organized pursuit, it sounded simple when written on paper. Though he knew it would be anything but simple in reality. The day before the planned escape, the Emperor made an announcement that changed everything. Citizens of the Valorant Empire, his voice boomed across the station. Tomorrow we celebrate a grand spectacle. Our favorite human fighter will face a challenge unlike any before. He will enter the arena against a Vraxian decimator. The prisoners in Do-yun's section went silent. Even the guards looked uncomfortable. What is a decimator? Da-heng asked the alien in the cell next to his. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in what might have been pity death. It said simply, no fighter has ever survived one. It has 4 arms. Acid for blood and armor that cannot be pierced. The Emperor is tired of you surviving. He wants to watch you die. That night, a final message came from Princess Yuna. It was longer than the others. I know what the Emperor has planned. I am sorry, I wish I could change it. But this might be our only chance. The grand spectacle will bring every noble in the Empire to the arena. Security will be focused on protecting them. Not watching for escape. Hyjin will trigger the blackout. During your match with the Decimator, you do not need the win. You only need to survive long enough for the chaos to begin when the fields fall. I will move toward the maintenance tunnel. Meet me there, please. Da-hyun survived long enough. Da-hyun read the message in the darkness of his cell. Survive a creature that had never been defeated. Fight through guards to reach a princess. Escape a space station filled with enemies. Steal a shovel and disappear into the unknown dot. It was the most insane plan he had ever heard. He smiled for the first time since his capture. He smiled the next morning. They came for him early. The guards were not rough this time. They almost seemed respectful. Even those who hated humans knew that walking towards certain death deserved some dignity. They gave him better weapons than usual. A real sword, not a small knife. Light armor that might stop 1 or 2 hits. It was still nothing compared to what the Decimator had, but it was something any last words human. One guard asked as they reached the arena entrance. Da-hyun looked at him, yes. When the screaming starts, run. The guard laughed nervously, not understanding he would understand soon enough. The arena gates opened, the crowd roared like thunder. 50,000 aliens had come to watch a human die. They wanted blood, they wanted entertainment. They wanted to see the end of the impossible survivor. Do-hyun walked onto the sand. The sun lamps above burned bright and hot. The arena stretched around him like a giant bowl, filled with screaming spectators. Across the arena, the Decimator's gate began to open. Do-hyun did not look at the monster. Not yet, instead. He looked up at the royal viewing box. Princess Yuna was there, her silver hair catching the light, her deep space eyes fixed on him. The Emperor sat beside her, fat and smiling, eager for death. Yuna gave him no sign, no message. But Da-hyun understood anyway. Survive. Just survive. He turned to face the Desmatar. It was everything the other prisoner had described, and worse. Forearms thick as tree trunks. Black armor that seemed to eat the light. Eyes filled with hunger and rage. The crowd counted down 3, 2, 1. The Decimator charged, and Kang Do-hyun, cargo pilot, arena fighter, and soon-to-be rescuer of princesses, began the fight of his life, not to win, just to survive. Because somewhere above him, an engineer was reaching for a switch. And somewhere beside the Emperor, a princess was preparing to run. The game was almost over. The real survival was about to begin. The Decimator was faster than anything that size had the right to be. Darien dove left as 4 massive arms smashed into the sand. Where he had been standing, the impact sent shockwaves through the ground. The crowd screamed with delight. He rolled, came up running, and put distance between himself and the monster. His sword felt useless in his hand. The Decimator's armor was too thick. He could not hurt it, he could only run dots. So he ran, the creature roared and chased him. Donovan used every trick he had learned in his weeks in the arena. He stayed close to the walls, where the Decimator's size made it clumsy. He doubled back when it expected him to go straight. He used the uneven sand to change directions quickly. The crowd began to boo. They had come to see a death, not a game of chase. But Do-hyun did not care about the crowd. He only cared about the timer in his head. Hyejin had said she would trigger the blackout. At the 8-minute mark, 8 minutes of staying alive, against something that could kill him in 1 hit. 3 minutes passed. The Decimator caught his arm with one massive claw. The armor saved his life, but the impact sent him flying across the arena. He hit the wall hard, tasted blood, and forced himself to stand. 4 minutes the creature was learning. It stopped chasing blindly and started cutting off his escape routes. Do-hyun was getting tired. Humans had good endurance, but not endless endurance. His legs burned, his lungs screamed. 5 minutes. The decimator cornered him against the arena wall. Do-hyun looked up at its black eyes and saw nothing but hunger. This was it. He was going to die here, and the princess was going to watch, and nothing would change. Then the monster hesitated. It was just for a moment. Something in its tiny brain recognized that this prey was different. It had chased many victims, killed many fighters, but none had lasted this long. None had kept getting up after being hit. None had refused to beg or scream or give up. That hesitation saved Do-hyun's life. He dove between the creature's legs, rolling across the sand, and came up running again. The decimator roared in frustration and turned to follow 6 minutes. 7 minutes, the crowd had stopped booing. They were silent now, watching with something that looked like wonder. Even the emperor had stopped smiling. No one had ever lasted this long against the decimator. Do-hyun was covered in blood. Most of it was his own. His left arm hung useless at his side, broken by one of the creature's strikes. His vision was blurring. He was not going to last much longer. 8 minutes, the lights went out. For a single heartbeat, the entire station was plunged into complete darkness. Then emergency lights flickered on, red and dim, and in that moment of confusion, every containment field in the arena failed. Cages opened, gates fell. Monsters that had been waiting for their turn in the arena suddenly found themselves free. Prisoners realized their cells were no longer locked. The neat ordered world of the Colosseum descended into pure chaos. The decimator forgot about Do-hyun. It turned toward the stands, toward the thousands of screaming spectators who were now prey instead of audience. It climbed the arena walls and began to kill. Dion did not watch. He was already running toward the royal viewing box. Guards tried to stop him. He killed the first one with his sword, took the guard's weapon, and killed the second one. With that, he was not thinking anymore. He was pure survival instinct, wrapped in human flesh, moving toward his goal with single-minded focus. The station had become a nightmare. Monsters roamed the corridors, slaughtering anyone they found. Prisoners fought guards in desperate battles. Nobles fled in every direction, their expensive clothes torn, their calm faces filled with terror. Do-hyun ignored all of it. He climbed stairs slick with blood. He fought through guards who were too confused to organize proper resistance. He broke through doors that should have been locked. The royal viewing box was ahead. 4 elite soldiers stood guard at the entrance, protecting the emperor's escape route. Behind them, Do-hyun could see Princess Yuna, her chain still binding her wrists. 4 soldiers, elite troops with advanced weapons and armor. Do-hyun had a broken arm, a stolen sword, and nothing to lose. He attacked anyway. The fight was ugly. There was no skill, no elegance. Do-hyun threw himself at the first guard with such fury that the soldier stumbled backward in surprise. That gave Do-hyun the opening he needed. He killed the guard with the guard's own knife, then used the body as his shield against the second soldier's attack. The third guard shot him. The energy blast caught his shoulder, burning through his light armor. Do-hyun screamed but did not stop. He kept coming, kept fighting, kept killing. When it was over, 4 elite soldiers lay dead, and Do-hyun stood in a pool of blood that was mostly his own. He looked at Princess Yuna. "We need to go," he said. She stared at him with those deep space eyes. "You are dying, not yet." He grabbed her chains and pulled. The metal groaned, stretched, and broke. Human strength was not impressive by galactic standards, but human determination was something else entirely. The maintenance tunnel was where she said it would be, hidden behind a decorative panel in the emperor's viewing box. The emperor himself was gone, fled at the first sign of trouble. A coward in the end, like all tyrants. They ran through the tunnel. Do-hyun's vision was fading. He could feel blood running down his body from a dozen wounds, but he kept moving. He had promised to get her out. He would get her out. Heijin was waiting at the docking bay. She had her own bruises, her own blood. But she was alive, and the shovel's engines were already running. "Get in," she shouted. "Security is reorganizing. We have maybe 2 minutes?" They boarded the shuttle. Yuna took the controls, while Heijin worked on the navigation system. Dahyun collapsed against the wall, too weak to stand anymore. Through the shell's windows, he could see the chaos they were leaving behind. The Colosseum was tearing itself apart. Fires burned. Bodies floated in the vacuum where hull breaches had opened. The greatest entertainment venue in the Valoran Empire was dying good. Dohim thought, let it die. The shovel launched behind them. Defense systems tried to lock on, but Heijin had disabled the targeting computers. During her months of maintenance work, nothing could touch them. They hit hyperspace, and the Colosseum disappeared in a flash of warped light. For a long moment, no one spoke. They just breathed, feeling the impossible reality of their survival. Then Eunice turned from the controls and looked at Do-hyun. He was barely conscious now, held together by nothing but stubborn human will. Why, she asked. You could have escaped alone during the chaos. You did not have to come for me. Why did you risk everything? Do-hyun looked at her with eyes that were half closed, clouded with pain and exhaustion. His answer came slowly, each word an effort. You asked me to wait, he said. I waited, now we run. He passed out before she could respond. Yuna looked at the unconscious human for a long time. Then she turned back to the controls and set a course for the outer reaches territories. They had escaped, but the Empire would come looking for them. The Emperor would not forgive this shame. Every bounty hunter, every warship, every resource would be turned toward hunting them down. The escape was just the beginning. The real fight was yet to come. But for now, in this small shuttle racing through hyperspace, a princess and her rescuers were free. And freedom, Yuna thought, was worth any price. The outer reaches territories had no law. That was why people came here: pirates, smugglers, refugees, and rebels all found homes in this lawless stretch of space where the Empire's control faded into nothing. Do-hyun spent 3 weeks recovering. On a hidden medical station, the doctors were aliens who asked no questions as long as payment arrived. Heijin had stolen enough credits from the Emperor's shuttle to cover the cost. The injuries were severe. Broken bones, internal bleeding, burns from energy weapons. Any normal person would have died. But humans, the doctors learned, were not normal. Their bodies healed with stubborn determination, fighting against death with the same intensity they showed in battle. On the 4th week, woke up to find Princess Yuna sitting beside his bed. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. His voice was rough from lack of use. Where are we going? The Resistance. Yuna's deep space eyes held something new now: purpose. My people are not completely gone. When my world fell, some escaped. They have been fighting the Empire in secret for 5 years, small attacks, sabotage anything to keep hope alive. I'm going to join them. Dahing sat up slowly, ignoring the pain that shot through his body. Then I'm coming with you. You do not have to. You are free now. You could find a ship. Return to Earth. Forget any of this ever happened. He looked at her for a long moment. Could you forget if you had the choice? Could you walk away and pretend the Empire does not exist? Pretend your people are not suffering? Yuna did not answer. She did not need to. Then neither can I. And said, I started this. I want to see it through. The Resistance base was hidden on a frozen moon called Keth 7. It was cold, harsh, and completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Hundreds of rebels from a dozen different conquered species lived in caves beneath the ice, planning their small war against the greatest empire in the galaxy. General Myra led them, She was a Rathian like Yuna, older and harder, with scars that told stories of battles lost and won. She greeted the princess with formal respect, and the humans with open suspicion. You bring outsiders to our hidden base. Myra said, aliens. You know nothing of our struggle. Why should I trust them because they saved my life? Yuno replied, because they fight like nothing I have ever seen. Because the Empire fears them now, and anything the Empire fears is valuable to us. Myra considered this, then she turned to Do-hyun. Prove yourself human. Prove you are worth the risk. Over the following weeks, Do-hyun proved himself again and again. He trained with the rebel fighters, learning their tactics, teaching them his own. He went on missions, small raids against Imperial supply lines. He never complained about the cold, the danger, or the odds. The rebels began to accept him. Not all of them, but enough. Whispered stories subs through the base about the human who walked out of the Colosseum, the fighter who killed elite guards with a broken arm, the man who refused to die. But not everyone was pleased with his presence. Prince Sejin arrived at the base 2 months after the escape. He was Yuna's younger brother, thought dead in the fall of Irith, now revealed to be a leader in the Resistance's military arm. He was young, fierce, and filled with rage against the Empire that had destroyed his family. He also did not trust Do-hyun at all. You are not one of us, Seojin said during their first meeting. His voice was cold. You have no reason to fight this war. What do you want? Power? Wealth, my sister. Do-hyun kept his voice calm. I want nothing except to help. No one helps without wanting something in return. You risk your life to save Yuna. You stay here when you could leave. There must be a reason. There is. Do-hyun met the prince's hostile gaze without flinching. I was entertainment to them. A joke, a small, weak creature they threw into the arena for laughs. They expected me to die in 2 minutes, and when I did not die, they thought it was funny. They watched me bleed and struggle and fight for my life, and they called it entertainment. His voice hardened. I will never forget what they did to me. I will never forgive it. And if I can help bring them down even a little, then that is what I will do. Seojin stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Good. Anger is useful, just do not let it make you stupid. The tension between them did not disappear, but it became something workable. Seojin watched Do-hyun carefully, waiting for him to show his true nature. Do-hyun did not give him anything to find. Meanwhile, the Empire was not idle. News reached the base through secret channels. The Emperor had placed the largest bounty in Imperial history on Do-hyun, Yuna, and Haijin. Every bounty hunter, every mercenary, every desperate criminal in the galaxy was looking for them. Twice they barely escaped ambush. 3 times they had to abandon safe houses when hunters got too close, but the hunts also brought them information, dubbed during one close escape. Haijin managed to capture a bounty hunter's communication device. The messages they found changed everything. Project Cleansing Fire. General Myra read aloud in the command center. The rebel leaders gathered around her, their faces grim. The Empire is building a new weapon. A ship-mounted device capable of sterilizing entire planets, killing all life while leaving resources intact. The room went silent. The first target. Myra continued, is the outer reach. They know we are hiding here somewhere. They intend to burn every planet, every moon, every rock. Until we are all dead, how long do we have? Yuna asked. The weapon is aboard the Emperor's flagship. Final testing completes in 6 weeks. After that, they begin the cleansing. 6 weeks to stop a weapon that could end billions of lives. 6 weeks to strike at the heart of the Empire itself. Do-hyun spoke into the heavy silence. We need to destroy it before they can use it. Impossible, Sejin said. The weapon is on the Emperor's personal flagship. The flagship is stationed at the Imperial Palace. On Valora Prime, we cannot get anywhere near it. The palace, Yuna said slowly. On Ascension Day, everyone looked at her. Once a year, the Emperor opens the palace. For the Ascension Day celebration, nobles from across the Empire attend. Security is massive, but it is also focused outward on protecting the guests. If we could get inside disguised as servants or guests, it would be a suicide mission. Myra said it would be our only chance. Yuna replied. General Mireille looked around the room at her tired, desperate rebels. Then she looked at the humans, the strangers who had brought them hope and danger. In equal measure, we will need volunteers. She said people willing to die for a chance at victory. Doyun stepped forward before anyone else could speak. I volunteer. Yuna immediately stood. I am coming with him, no? Saijin's voice was sharp. You are too valuable. If this fails, the resistance needs a leader. Someone who did not escape the Emperor's cage. To hide in another one, Yuna interrupted. My people need me to fight, not to be protected. I am going. Brother and sister stared at each other. Finally, Saijin sighed. Then I am going too. Someone needs to protect you both. From your own stubborn foolishness. Despite everything, Dion almost smiled. The planning began that night. In 6 weeks, they would infiltrate the most heavily guarded location in the galaxy, destroy a weapon of mass destruction, and escape alive. The odds were impossible. But Dion had stopped believing in impossible. The day he walked out of the Colosseum, he had survived the arena. He had survived the escape. He had survived the hunters. That now he would survive the Empire itself, or die trying. The Imperial Palace on Valora Prime was the most beautiful building Dohyun had ever seen. It was also the most terrifying. Towers of white crystal rose into a purple sky. Gardens floated in the air, held by technology that seemed like magic. Thousands of nobles in expensive clothes walked the shining corridors, laughing and drinking and celebrating the Emperor's glory. None of them noticed the servants moving through the crowds. Why would they? Servants were invisible to people like them. Dawit adjusted his stolen uniform and kept walking. Beside him, Yuna carried a tray of drinks with practiced grace. Behind them, Sejun pushed a cleaning cart that contained hidden weapons. They were deep inside enemy territory, surrounded by guards, walking straight into the heart of the Empire. Thought the plan was simple in theory. Hyjin had stayed behind at the base, coordinating with resistance cells across the sector. At midnight, they would launch simultaneous attacks on Imperial outposts throughout the outer reach. The attacks would fail, but they would draw attention away from the palace, while security scrambled to respond. Dohyun's team would reach the weapon control center. Yuna had memorized the palace layout from stolen blueprints. Seo Jun knew the security codes from a turned spy. Daewon's job was to get them through anything the plan did not account for. There would be a lot the plan did not account for. They reached the inner palace without incident. The celebration was loud enough to cover their movements. Nobles danced in the Great Hall, while the Emperor watched from his throne, fat and satisfied, surrounded by guards. Darling looked at the Emperor and felt cold hatred. This was the creature who had watched him fight and bleed for entertainment. This was the monster who had conquered Yuna's world, killed her family and kept her in chains. Not tonight, Dayan thought. Tonight you lose. They were 50 meters from the weapon control center when everything went wrong. Commander Tarak stepped out of the shadows. He was not alone. A dozen elite guards surrounded him, weapons already aimed at the 3 infiltrators. The commander's cold eyes showed no surprise, only satisfaction. The human who would not die. Tarak said, I knew you would come. The bounty hunters were bait. Every failed capture told me more about your capabilities, your allies, your plans. I have been waiting for you. Dahing reached for his hidden weapon, but Sergen stopped him with a gesture. They were surrounded. Any attack would be suicide. You are under arrest, Tarek continued. The Emperor wants you alive. He has plans for you, creative plans. The things he will do to you will make the arena look like kindness. They were LED through the palace in chains. Don Hyun walked with his head high, refusing to show fear beside him. Yuna was calm, her face showing nothing. Only Sejun's hands trembled slightly, revealing his terror. The throne room was massive. Nobles lined the walls, their celebrations paused to witness the capture of the famous fugitives. The Emperor rose from his throne, his fat face twisted with cruel joy. The little human returns, the Emperor said. I knew you were stupid, but I did not think you were this stupid. Coming to my home on my celebration day. He laughed and the nobles laughed with him. I will make your death last for years. Every day will bring new pain, and your princess will watch every moment of it. Dahan said nothing. He was counting guards, measuring distances, looking for any weakness in the trap around them. His eyes found Tarak's weapon belt. The commander carried a personal shield generator, a small device that could protect against blasts. It can also, if overloaded, create a small explosion. It was a terrible plan. It was also the only plan he had. Any last words before I begin your punishment? The Emperor asked. Do Yin met his eyes. Yes. I have a question. The Emperor looked amused. Asked, do you know why humans are dangerous? The Emperor snorted. You are not dangerous. You are small, weak, fragile creatures who survive only by luck and stubbornness. That is what everyone thinks. Dahin's voice was quiet, almost conversational. They see a species with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. They assume we are prey. But here is the thing about prey that refuses to die. Eventually it stops being prey. Eventually it learns to hunt. He moved. Hyjin had built the blade into his false chains. It was small, almost invisible, made of materials that scanners could not detect. Do-hyun had carried it against his wrist for hours, waiting for this moment. The blade cut through his chains in a single motion. Before anyone could react, Do-hyun had grabbed a rock shield generator and crushed it in his hands. The explosion was small but bright. Guards stumbled backward, blinded. Nobles screamed and ran in the chaos. Yuna slipped her own chains and grabbed a fallen weapon. Sejun kicked a guard in the face and took his rifle. The battle for the imperial palace had begun. It was not a fair fight. It was never going to be a fair fight. 3 rebels against the full might of the Emperor's personal guard. But Do-hyun had never fought fair. He and Tara clashed in the center of the throne room. The commander was skilled, trained in combat forms from 100 worlds. Do-hyun was exhausted, injured, and outmatched, but Do-hyun had something to rock. Did not, he had nothing to lose. They traded blows that would have killed lesser fighters. Tarak's sword cut deep into Do-hyun's side. Do-hyun's knife found the gap in Tarak's armor. They fought like animals, no grace. No elegance, just desperate violence. Across the room, Seojin fell. A guard's blast caught him in the chest as he protected Yuna from fire. He went down hard and did not get up. See, Agent Yuna screamed. She tried to reach him, but guards blocked her path. Dahan heard her cry. He saw the prince lying motionless on the floor, and something inside him snapped. The next few seconds were a blur. Do-hyun did not remember the details later. He only remembered the feeling. Pure rage, pure desperation. Pure human fury channeled into violence. When the blur cleared, Commander Tarak was dead at his feet, and a dozen guards lay broken around him. Yuno was running toward the weapon control center. Do-hyun followed, leaving a trail of blood, from wounds he could no longer feel. The control room was ahead. 2 guards stood at the door. Dahin killed them without slowing down. Yuna reached the console and began entering codes. "I need time," she said. "The deactivation sequence takes 2 minutes." "You have it." Daohyun turned to face the door. Outside, he could hear boots running, commanders shouting orders, weapons being prepared. The entire palace guard was coming. He stood in the doorway, one human, one sword. Against an empire. They came in waves. Daohyun held them back. He did not know how. His body moved without thought, driven by something beyond normal human limits. Every time he should have fallen, he found the strength for one more strike. Every time death reached for him, he pushed it away behind him. Yuna worked frantically 1 minute. 90 seconds. The countdown felt like hours done. Yuna shouted across the galaxy. The weapon died. The device that could burn worlds went dark. In the outer reach, billions of lives that would have ended in fire would now continue. Donghun tried to smile, but his body had finally reached its limit. He collapsed in the doorway, his sword falling from fingers that would no longer move. Yuna reached him just as resistance fighters burst through the palace walls. Aizen's coordinated attacks had been a distraction. Yes, but they had also positioned strike teams near the palace. When the weapon died, they moved. The emperor tried to flee. He did not get far. Dohyun's last conscious memory was Eunice's face above him, her deep space eyes filled with tears. He wanted to tell her something important, but the words would not come. The darkness took him before he could speak. 3 months later, Dohyun stood on a balcony on the planet Earth, watching the sunrise over a world that was finally free. He still had scars. He always would, some wounds never fully healed. But he was alive, and that was more than anyone had expected. The Valoran Empire had shattered without the Emperor. Without their superweapon, the great power had broken into a dozen warring factions. The resistance had liberated 4 worlds in the chaos. More would follow. Seo Jun had survived barely. He walked with a cane now, and probably always would, but he was alive and he had finally stopped, looking at Dohyun with suspicion. Saving his sister's life twice had that effect. Footsteps approached behind Dohyun. He knew who it was without turning. "The coronation is in 1 hour. Yuna said I need to prepare." "You will be a good queen." "I do not want to be queen. I want to be free." Dawn turned to look at her. She was beautiful in the morning light, her silver hair catching the sun's rays. She was no longer a prisoner. She was no longer a fugitive. She was about to become the leader of a reborn nation. "We are never completely free." He said, "We just choose which chains to carry." Yuna stepped closer to him. "After the coronation, there will be ceremonies. Rewards for those who helped save my people. I can offer you anything: titles, lands, wealth, a position of power in my court." Dohyun shook his head. "I do not want titles or lands." "What do you want?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said to stay. "If you will have me," Yuna smiled. It was the same smile she had given him in the arena when he first touched his shoulder and agreed to her impossible plan. The smile that had started everything. "I will have you," she said, "for as long as you are willing to stay." The coronation was magnificent. Thousands of Arianthians gathered to watch their princess become their queen. Ambassadors from free worlds attended. Resistance leaders who had fought in the shadows finally stepped into the light. And beside the throne, where advisors and champions traditionally stood, a human watched with quiet pride. Years later, people would tell stories about the human who fought in the Colosseum. They would speak of the man who faced a decimator and lived, who killed elite guards with a broken arm, who stood in a doorway and held back an army. They would call him legend, hero, the deathless human. But though he never cared about the stories, he only cared that when a princess had asked him to wait, he had waited when she had asked him to survive. He had survived when she had needed someone to fight for her. He had fought. What began as entertainment had become survival. What became survival had turned into something more. Love purpose. A place to belong in a vast and dangerous galaxy. The arena had tried to break him. The Empire had tried to kill him. Neither had succeeded because humans, as the galaxy learned, did not break easily. And they never stopped fighting for those they chose to protect. That was the lesson of Kang Do-yun. That was the truth the Valoran Empire discovered too late. Humanity, when pushed to the edge, did not fall, it pushed back.